So thank you for coming to my talk. Let me see here, then I can see my notes. There we go. So my name is Erik Veld, and I'm an engineer slash consultant at Xebia. Worldwide, we work for some of the biggest companies in the world, which means we get to solve a lot of interesting problems. So first, I'd like to talk about how I got to this subject, like learning infrastructure, right? A few months ago, I was sitting where you guys are now. We were helping HashiCorp organize HashiConf Europe. And we were thinking what we wanted to do with our booth. We wanted to do something different and fun, not just a normal booth where people would come up and talk to us and we would try to sell them something. And what we used to do was, sorry, I laser pointed you. What we used to do a lot was when we organized conferences, we would have self-paced workshop where you would get slides, download them, get a Vagrant box, and it had everything set up for you to do all the exercises we had. And one of those workshops we did was for Nomad, for Dutch Docker Day, where they released 0.1, so we were really excited about that, so we really wanted to get people to experience that. And so we created the workshop, and then very nicely of HashiCorp, they released 0.1.2 the night before at 10 p.m. So I spent all night updating the Vagrant boxes and the slides, and in the morning. But we got there. And then we had a lot of trouble with people downloading the Vagrant boxes over the Wi-Fi. So the Wi-Fi went down, and we had to distribute them with USB keys, and people were scared to put USB keys in their computer. So it was horrible. So what we wanted to do, like at the same time we were organizing HashiCorp, I was also preparing the official Nomad training, which I was giving with a colleague of mine at HashiConf. And there we actually spinned up a Google Cloud environment for every attendee, where they had their own environment, they could have all the tools, like a real environment. So there was Consul set up in cluster. Nomad was not running yet because that was part of the training to set it up. But it felt like a real environment where you could play around in. So we had the idea that for the contest, we would also spin up an environment for each of the contestants with everything pre-configured so they could focus on using the tools instead of doing all the configuration and at the end of the day not having done anything. And we could spin up an environment in about 40 seconds. And we did the environments in parallel. And in about 2 minutes, we had 40 environments up and running for everybody. It was really, really great. I think my notes are not appearing, by the way. Well, while he's doing that, is continue. So we created the environment for each contestant, and first the idea was that they would just go into the environment, play with the tools they were interested in. So there was Nomad, Veld, Consul, and they could create instances with Terraform. Everything was free. We had everything set up for them. Okay. And we were just wondering, like, would people actually go into the environment and start playing with things without being guided? So we thought, okay, what if we add gamification to this, right? We think of challenges, they had to solve puzzles or whatever was the idea first, and then they would complete them, and they would get points for that. So that's what we actually did. We created the HashiContest, which was a contest where there were challenges on Consul, Nomad, Veld, and Terraform. And by completing them, they would earn points. And at the end of the conference, the person with the most points would win a GoPro. Oh, the TV was off, so it's good. So this is the final leaderboard, where you can see the people had points. So we aggregated those, and we had to aggregate all the times, because people ended up with the same scores, which was a bit of an issue trying to figure out the winner. So we thought we'd tally up all the times they spent on the challenges as well. And as you can see, there are some really crazy times in there, like 1,200 minutes. So we had the 4 different categories for Nomad, Veld, Consul, and Terraform. And you could do the challenges that you were interested in. If you wanted to learn something about Terraform, you could focus on that. And each of those categories had their own leaderboard, so you could actually see who was the best at each of the tools. So you can see Mr. Roboto and Evil Corp there as well. I'll get to those later. So here you see the list of challenges, and you only saw the name of the challenge before you started it, and you only saw the details after you've started it. Which led us to having to add the little asterisk with the note that the timers start when you click Start Challenge, because people were very curious, and they started all the challenges at the same time just to see what was happening. And they got some crazy times, like you see the 1,200 minutes, and it was a 2-day conference with people going to talks as well. So, and then when you were looking at these challenges, you could get a direction. You had a goal of what you had to do and a direction of where to start looking for an answer. There was no help here of how you could do it, no steps to follow. It was totally free and up to you. So people came to the conclusion in different ways, which was really interesting to see how people solved the problems. So the conference and the contest as well were a big success beyond what we expected. At first, we were worried that there wouldn't be any competitors, so we might have to compete ourselves just to get people on the leaderboard. But luckily, before long, we had 50 people competing, and very actively so. Some people even missing talks just because they were so focused on doing the challenges. And even the pros started playing too. So that's where Mr. Roboto and Evil Corp come in. Because Seth was playing as Mr. Roboto and setting some crazy times on Consul and Veld. He did the Veld challenges in 8 minutes, and I think the second person did it in 40 or something. And on Consul, he had 12 minutes, and we think he took some shortcuts getting to the solutions, but we still don't know exactly how. So then Armin tried to beat Seth, which unfortunately didn't really work out, at least not without some help from us. So we changed the leaderboards just to piss off Seth, because he was smack talking that, oh, I'm sure you can't beat Mr. Roboto, and so we just changed the score of Armin to be above Seth's with 7 minutes. And yeah, so Seth is still the fastest HashiCorp employee. And before long, all the other employees wanted to try out their tool as well and set the fastest times there, with Diptanu from Nomad setting a 1-minute time on the Nomad challenge. It was his second try, though, because the first time he forgot to uncomment a comment, which was a rookie mistake. But they set some really great times, and it was a really nice benchmark for all the other attendees to see, okay, how do I stack up against the professionals? There was even one competitor that ran back to his hotel just so he could get better Wi-Fi and finish the challenges quicker. So he was in the race until the last minute. We could see him try the solutions to the last Volt cubbyhole challenge, but unfortunately he didn't solve it, which was really harsh because next to us there are his friends standing there, and they had the answer, but they were so committed that they didn't want to share it with him. So yeah, the feedback was amazing, and it gave us a lot of satisfaction and was the coolest thing we've done at the conference so far. But the thing that really stood out to us was all the feedback of how great a learning tool it was. There were even companies coming to us and asking if they could use the contest internally to teach their employees these tools. And even people that hadn't worked with the tools before now had an idea of how and where they could use the tools. And we gave the contest a few more times at meetups, and every time the feedback was the same. It's a very engaging, effective, and fun learning tool. And people even came back to consecutive meetups just to finish the categories they hadn't come to yet. So let's get back to the topic of learning. I want to take a look at how we learn the new tools and their accompanying concepts right now, right? So you hear about a new tool on Twitter or Hacker News or via colleagues, and you go to the website, and if you're lucky, it's not just all marketing bullshit. You actually can figure out what a tool does. If you're unlucky, you have to dive into the documentation or the source code to figure out what it's doing. Then, after a few hours in the source code, you kind of get an idea, and you did the getting started, you have something up and running, so you're feeling good now, but you still don't understand what the tool does. So you have to go to webinars, you follow workshops, go to training courses. But in the end, you end up at conferences because you think like, oh, so we have a good setup, right? Let's compare it to all the other people. What are they doing? What are the best practices? What can we learn from them? But the best way to start learning tools is by really experiencing them firsthand and in real life scenarios. And these methods don't really do that. They focus on giving you a boot start and, well, then you're on your way. And plowing through these docs and following the trainings, it costs a lot of time. And if you want to share it amongst your team, all of your colleagues have to do the same journey. They have to go through all the trainings as well. It's not very effective and not efficient. And at the same time, everything is changing so fast. Every month there's a new tool. And if you choose a tool, a month later there might be something nicer around, and all your knowledge that you've built up during that time is all irrelevant now. Just take schedulers, for instance, right? First there was Mesos Marathon, which Twitter endorses, right? So it had to be good. Then Google came up with all their Google Brainy ideas and built upon decades of knowledge. Then Nomad takes all that knowledge and puts it in a nice, elegant binary, making it operationally very, very nice to use. And then even since last DockerCon, Swarm is trying to be a real scheduler as well. And that's just in 1 year, right? And to think that before, a few years ago, we didn't even know what schedulers were. And this is just in one area. If you multiply this by all the other different tool types we have to watch, how do you keep up? It's impossible. So with so many tools and so much changing, how do we actually choose which of these tools to focus on, right? What if you make the wrong choice or something better comes along while you've actually made your choice already, right? When you start learning a new tool, first everything is great, you're in the honeymoon period, you don't see any flaws. And then after a few weeks, you start to notice some weird things breaking, strange configuration, a lot of statically defined stuff. And then as soon as you put a ring on that software finger, you're stuck, right? You're now totally involved in that tool, and switching is a big investment. And when you choose tools, you can check the specs, you can look at the costs and compare them with the other tools, but it's not just about that. It's also about how a tool feels and how much knowledge do you need to operate it and how hard is it to get started. All these factors make that it's quite an investment to choose a tool, especially when company-wide you're totally going in a direction. It's not that easy to pivot. So what are we looking for when we look at new tools, right? What if there was a different way of learning and selecting these tools? Which quality would that new method need? So it would have to be something that fits into our schedule, right? If you follow training, then you lose 1 day or 2 days even. It's hard to fit that in, and you're not allowed to go on trainings more than X amount of times in a year. So we need something that's bite-sized, that we can always just pick up, learn a little bit, and then move on to our normal work. Because we don't want learning a tool as a second job after you've come home from work and then, okay, now I have to learn all these new tools. We're already busy enough. And we need something that allows us to think for ourselves, not just follow along and repeat the steps after them. Monkey see, monkey do doesn't work. So we've all followed courses where you get some theory and then you follow the steps that they laid out for you. You type in the commands or you copy paste them even. And then after a few weeks, you don't even remember what you've learned. It's because we're not challenged to think for ourselves. It's just, okay, they tell us to do this, we do that, and we're not involved in making these choices, and we don't find our own way in doing the things. So there's this Chinese, Greek, or American, since we're in America now, let's just say it's an American proverb, that goes something along the lines of, tell me and I will forget, show me and I will remember, involve me and I will understand. And that's exactly what we need, to be involved with a tool, getting hands-on experience. And we need to be able to learn by doing and learn by making mistakes, because making mistakes teaches you so much. It's so valuable. So we want something repeatable and allows for trial and error. Then we want something that teaches more than just the happy flow. Not the getting started and, oh, it'll run perfectly forever, don't worry about it. Because things always break. And it's those situations we want to know how to handle, right? What if quorum breaks or, I don't know, everything goes down? How do you recover from that? If you can learn that from other people and they can share that knowledge with you, that's what we want. Not just to figure it out ourselves when we're in panic. Everything's burning. And we want to learn the edge cases as well. What if you, like, we're always trying to push tools to their edges and see if they can solve new problems for us. Maybe we should also try to learn those things instead of just the basic usage. And it needs to be something that we can relate to, so we know where we can place it in our own environment. Is it useful to us? Or maybe it doesn't fit in our environment. Or maybe we need to change the way we're doing things because it'll benefit us down the road. And very importantly, we need to learn from each other, right? If we share knowledge, we can gain knowledge so much quicker. And if we actually can see where we're lacking compared to other people or compared to some end goal, then we also know what we need to focus on. And we know where we're lacking knowledge and how we might get that. So if we look back at the gamification that we did at HashiConf, in the HashiContest, by gamifying the learning process, do we already tick some of these boxes? If so, which ones? So fit into our existing schedule. Well, the challenges are all bite-sized and small, so it's really easy to fit them into your own schedule. If you have some time before lunch or you're waiting for things to compile, just do a quick challenge and then you've learned some. And it makes you think for yourself, because there's no steps you have to follow. You have to figure out what the steps are to get to the end goal, right? Which actually teaches us a lot more, and it allows us to create challenges that are off the beaten path, because we build our own knowledge base. So if you try something more advanced, we have something to build upon. So it's easier to take that leap. And the challenges allow for trial and error, because it's pretty much all trial and error. You try something, you hit the check button, you think the check button's not working, so you keep clicking it and go back to fixing the problem again. And you can create challenges for more than just the happy flow. It's really easy. You can even fake failures, right? You can fake a server going down and then give people the challenge of bringing it back up and time it and see how long it took. And you can create challenges for your own environment, so you can relate to them. If you're using Terraform, then create Terraform challenges. If you're using other tools, you can create challenges for those. And you can even replay scenarios that have happened in your environment, right? If you have certain crashes every month, create a challenge for it, and then you can actually replay it and learn how to deal with them. And by recording the solutions to the challenges, we can actually share those solutions. Then we can discuss them and see what are the best practices. Because the way you do things doesn't have to be the best way to do it. Maybe other people have found new ways to do it, right? And we can see how we stack up to each other. Like with the leaderboards, you can see, oh wow, he's really good at Consul, so I might need to pick his brain on how did he solve things, which I need to do with Seth, with the way he cheated it. And we can see where we can improve. If you're lacking in one of the tools, then, well, you know you can focus on that. And in other sectors of IT, there's already a lot of use of gamification. Just look at security, for instance. They've been doing CTF competitions, which is capture the flag, for many years. It doesn't mean that they're in a room playing Quake together, capturing each other's flags. It's basically teams playing against each other where they have to harden their own servers so other people can't steal a secret on their servers. And then at the same time, you have to try and steal the secret by abusing vulnerabilities in other teams' servers. And even in programming these days, there's loads of competitions you can join, and we're even teaching kids how to program by playing games. You move your character using commands, and you program a piece of code, and then see what happens. And you can even learn Vim by playing games. There's an adventure where you move through the world using the key bindings. So if you're having trouble with Vim, play this game. I think it's called Vim Adventures. You'll be sorted. Or if you're having issues with Git, there's a game for that as well. You can turn into a Git wizard by following Git game, which goes you through an adventure, like Zelda-like-ish game. So if gamification is already being used on so many occasions in IT, why isn't there something like that for infrastructure-related subjects? Or if there is, please come up to me after the talk, and I'd really love to discuss those. Or if people have actually used gamification in their normal daily work, please let me know. So I looked at the ideas that we got from the HashiContest and all the feedback, and at the same time I was at a client case, my current client case actually, and we were having issues transferring knowledge because we built a new platform for them, and it was totally new for them. All the concepts and all the tools were new. And while we were building it, we were supposed to build it together with them. Their data center kept falling down and crashing and burning, so they didn't have time to focus on learning these new tools, which made it really hard, especially because we also needed to change the way they were thinking, change their culture. So what we did was we created something like the HashiContest, but a platform where we could create multiple competitions where they could learn Docker and Terraform and Consul and all the other elements that we were using in the environments that we built for them, right? And it taught them how to operate the tools and how they were integrated. And even the people that, we built it for them, but by replaying these challenges, they could actually learn how they could build it as well. They got the whole building mindset. And the nice thing was that we started creating these challenges together with the team members. And they were learning from building the challenges and by doing them. So it was a win-win. And because we had to leave after the project, right? Once we're finished, we'd like to move on. We don't want to stay consulting for eternity. So we like to track how far we are in the knowledge transfer process. And by doing the challenges, we can actually see where they are in the list. Like, which things do they master? Which tools do we really need to focus on? Or if we encounter new problems, we can create a challenge for that, and then they know how to handle those, which is really nice. And after we are gone, they can actually keep doing these challenges, and they can keep creating new ones. And if they actually further develop the platform, they can create challenges for those as well, and keep learning long after we are gone. So what does this platform thing look like then? So we build a simple platform where you can create multiple competitions, and you can create them yourself for other people to use. You can create the challenges on there. And we have competitions for all of the tools that we have in that landscape. So we have tools for our competition for scheduling, we have for service discovery, secret management, provisioning, all of them. And then they can play through connected scenarios. So we actually bundled the challenges into connected challenges. So at the start of a scenario, we can spin up infrastructure that they might need, and then we can keep that state through all the challenges and take it along. And then after the scenario is ended, we can break down the infrastructure again, all thanks to Terraform. Just clean it up, right? And then the problem we had before at the HashiContest with everybody clicking everything and then ruining their times, now we can actually have like a unlocking procedure where you have to finish a challenge before you can get to the next one. So that solved a lot of those problems. And now we can actually control the flow at which they go through the challenges as well. And they can now just finish the challenge in the same place where they read the description, right? So this is the cubbyhole challenge that the guy couldn't solve at the end, which is pretty nice to do. And then they can create their challenges in the same way or in the same interfaces that they're doing it. It's just simple writing a piece of Markdown to describe what they have to do and some hints, and then a piece of bash script to check the solution, which means it's really flexible and very powerful. There's so many opportunities and possibilities. So really nice. It's cool that the company is doing it, but what does that help you, right? What can you guys do? So there's a lot of things that you can do even without having a platform like this, right? You can start writing challenges when you're writing documentation. So if you have a new tool, then you're writing documentation, how you implement it, complement that with challenges on how to set it up, how to use it, describe edge cases, describe failures, right? And like documentation, those challenges can change and improve and might be not useful anymore after a while, so you might get rid of them if you want to. And instead of people having to dig through code to figure out how you're building up things, they can just do the challenges and actually experience and do it themselves and see how they can create the environments or solve problems. And you can actually, when you have a real-life scenario, say you have a failure, think of how you can reproduce it and then create a challenge out of it. And then with your whole team, try to finish the challenge. Maybe look at which solution came to the fastest completion of the challenge and see how people did it, right? If you can compare all the solutions together, you can see what is the best solution and you can discuss it. At the platform we built, all the sessions when you start the challenge are recorded with a cinema. So it records all the input and all the output that's shown in the terminal. So we can actually upload those then and then watch them and see how everybody solved them and discuss that together, which is really, really valuable. And if you start doing these for incidents, then instead of them being like a scary thing, they become opportunities to learn. And it gives you confidence. If you can keep replaying failures and fix them, you get confidence that the next time it happens, you don't have to worry. You know how to fix this. You can even assess new colleagues by challenging them, right? So you can complement your procedure by letting them do challenges, see how all the candidates stack up to each other, right? Because on paper, everybody can look like the ideal candidate, but if you just let them do real challenges, you can actually see how they stack up together and even compare them to the teammates in the teams. Maybe they have some valuable knowledge that you can add to the team. And we can learn from each other and yourself by sharing it. And if we would do that as a community, create challenges, share them, have other people solve them, improve them, and share the solutions, we might get to best practices a lot quicker than we do now. So we have the challenges idea, but what more could we do, right? How can we expand upon this idea of gamification? Well, what if we look at the multidisciplinary teams, right? Dev, Ops, Sec, as Mitchell showed in his keynote. What if we had challenges where people had to cooperate against computer scenarios and then go from different angles solving a problem together? Or you could even have teams compete against each other in a turn-based or real-time fashion, where you are competing companies and you have to gain the edge on the other team. There's so many possibilities. You could even have branching storylines where making a choice in one of the challenges could result into events later on. We could try to explore choices. What if we choose this tool? What would happen to our environment? And we can actually learn from other people that have made the choices before, see how that panned out. So thank you for listening. I hope you guys will start using gamification in your own companies. And come find me after the talk if you want to discuss ideas or have any questions, or contact me on any of those ways. Thank you.